and I am one of the youth engagement counselors here in the Rio Grande Valley. As you can see, we have students from all over, so welcome everyone. With us also is Lupita from our admissions office. And at the very end, she's gonna give us a brief update, a couple of, what you need to know, next steps. And then we also have Dr. Walker and two of his students who will be presenting today on the Global Leadership and Social Impact program that they have. So welcome everyone. And as soon as I get my screen to work. All right, so really quickly, this is the agenda we have for today. We're going to give a brief intro, and then we're going to let Dr. Walker take over. And then again, at the very end, we're going to have a brief admissions update. So as I mentioned, we're here in the Rio Grande Valley, but we also have a center in Houston, San Antonio, Austin, and Dallas. And we work with the Division of Diversity and Community Engagement. And while we work with high school students, we have a ton of programs, centers, resources available for UT Austin students. So as potential undergraduate students, we want to share with you all these wonderful resources that you might encounter on campus. And this is just one of 8 programs that we're going to be talking about. We have a couple more scheduled in the month of April, and the next one is coming in on Thursday. So we'll give you more detail on that. But for now, just really quickly, make sure that you turn your camera off. If you're not asking questions, keep yourself muted just to avoid any distractions. And Dr. Walker, if you want to allow students to turn on the cameras and their microphones that they share with you, you can let them know. But just be sure that you use proper etiquette in the chat, and this session is being recorded. So if you are camera shy, just make sure you turn it off. But we love to see y'all's faces and hear from you all. So if you are comfortable, go ahead and unmute yourself and let us see your faces. All right. So Dr. Walker is the director of the Global Leadership and Social Impact of the Division of Diversity and Community Engagement. He earned his undergraduate degree in 2008 at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where he majored in sociology and history. He earned his PhD in curriculum and instruction at the University of Texas at Austin in 2018. His research portfolio focuses on intersection of race, sports, and education with an emphasis on international education. His dissertation explored the influence that international education had on the personal, social, and career development of Division I Black male student athletes. Dr. Walker served as a graduate student fellow with the AAMRI from 2013 to 2018, where he helped the institute novel programming such as College for a Day and the Black Manhood series. Dr. Walker has extensive experience living, working, and backpacking abroad. He taught English in Korea for 2 years, has lived in 5 countries, and has traveled to 30 countries. In 2017, he was awarded the Global Leadership Award from the Diversity Abroad Network for his work in creating equity and access within international education. Dr. Walker's role as a postdoctoral fellow with DDCE is to direct the Division of Global Leadership Initiatives, as well as XP3, a fellowship program designed to prepare students for leadership in the 21st century global workforce through innovative professional development programming. In his free time, as if he wasn't busy already, he's also the CEO and founder of the World Walker Foundation, which provides educational and financial resources to students of the African diaspora participate in service learning trips within the Africa diaspora. And again, as if he wasn't busy enough already, he's with us here today. Thank you, Dr. Walker, for being here. And I'm gonna stop sharing our screen and then the screen will be yours.
All right, for sure. Thank you very much for that introduction. It is rather long though. I gotta shorten that thing up. So thanks everybody for joining us here today. My name is Dr. Devin Walker from Los Angeles, California. And you know, my path, I would say, towards global engagement really started probably when I was like in the 6th or 7th grade. How many of you all on this call have had the experience in class, social studies, world history, something like that, where you're excited to learn something about your culture? Finally, right? We've been studying all this European history, all this white history, which, yes, is important, but it is not the only story. However, oftentimes in our K through 12 experience, it is the story, it's the dominant narrative. And for me, being mixed, I wanted to learn something about African history, about Black people outside of slavery. And I remember being in the 7th grade, and it was world history. And I was so excited to finally learn something about Africa. Africa was the second unit right after Europe. But Europe just kept going and kept going and kept going. And after 11 weeks, the teacher was like, next week, we're going to start on Africa. I was like, let's go, right? I was excited. I was hyped. And I actually remember dressing up nicer to go to school that following week, right? Getting into class, having a great week. On Friday, the teacher's like, all right, and next week, we're going to be moving on to Asian American history. I'm like, what? 1 week? We just spent 11 weeks on Europe. We spent 1 week on Africa. Now we're already moving to Asia. Like, I'm confused. This doesn't make sense to me. And it was that moment I decided, all right, growing up in this country, right, if I want to get a true education, not only about myself and my people, but about the world, I'm going to need to navigate that myself. And so I decided at that moment, I'm going to travel to Africa. That was the biggest goal I had ever set for myself. And it wasn't until I was 22 years old, my senior year at college, I finally met that goal, right? And since then, I've been in love with traveling. I'm going to talk to you all a little bit more about that. However, I have two fabulous students here with me that I also want to expose you all to, so they could talk a little bit about their international experiences and some of the things they're thinking about and why they might think it is important for them. So first, we are going to start, let me see, with Kevin. And Kevin is one of my students in my XP3 program. He's phenomenal. And so with that, I'm going to pass it over to you, Kevin, and tell him a little bit about the narrative and what we talked about last week and why you're invited here to present today.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kevin Washington. I'm a second year international relations and global studies major with a minor in Portuguese. And today I just want to talk to you guys about why I decided to learn Spanish and the places that it took me. So to start, I'm biracial. I'm mixed with Hispanic and Black. And on my Hispanic side of the family, my grandfather was the only person who spoke Spanish. So I wanted to learn in order to communicate with him. And also because I felt it was crucial to my identity. So I went to Google because in school, my teachers always told us that there are people who are willing to pay for you to learn. So because I wanted to learn Spanish, I went to Google and just typed up free summer abroad programs. And I came across a program called CIEE. And by the next summer, I was in Spain. Now, when I went to Spain, I went to various places. I stayed in Madrid with the host family for about 4 weeks. It was a Peruvian family. So I learned how to make many Peruvian dishes. But besides living in Madrid, we went to Granada, we went to Sevilla, and we also went to Andalusia. And the most important, I guess the most essential part of that experience for me was that it allowed me to see what's out there besides that of solely my community. It allowed me to really just understand and see people from a different perspective rather than my own. I was kind of closed-minded in a sense. So it basically just pushed me, it made me aware of so many things and so many people that I didn't know of before. So it was honestly an experience that I wouldn't take back. I want to go back to Spain. I actually talk to my host mom very frequently, and she always tells me, like, if you want to come, you have a home. So they're very nice people in Spain. But I feel that as being kids and growing up in America, we should try to travel outside of the United States. I feel it should be necessary.
Kevin, thank you very much. And let me ask you this: why you want to continue practicing your Spanish? Why not study abroad in Mexico? It's a lot cheaper in Spain. It's a
It
lot
was
closer.
free.
You said what?
It was free. So I just
No, I'm
went to,
talking about as a you went. So just to be clear, Kevin went as a high school student, correct?
correct.
High school student. So do you plan to study abroad again as a college student?
Yes, I do.
And you want to go to Spain?
Brazil.
Brazil. Okay, dope. And why do you want to go to Brazil?
Because I want to learn Portuguese.
That's beautiful. So you'll be trilingual at that point.
Yes.
All right, cool. Thank you very much, Kevin. And if you're able to stay around towards the end of the presentation, we're going to do Q&A. So some of the students may have questions for you. If you're able to stay around, that would be great. If not, totally understand. You're a busy college student. Kevin has goals of, why don't you tell him your big goal, Kevin?
Okay. I want to create a global nonprofit organization that allows me to travel and really develop an understanding of different cultures while also leaving a positive impact on the places that I visit.
Beautiful. And this is part of that, right? So him coming and speaking with you all today is building steps towards his ultimate goal. So thank you very much, Kevin. Next up, I'm going to pass it to Caesar. So Caesar was on our trip to South Africa. I can't remember what year, but the Division of Diversity and Community Engagement, we have numerous trips. So let me just put this into context. The University of Texas is one of the best international education programs across the country. We just got an award last week. We're steadily in the top 5 in terms of the entire country. So if you do come to this institution, right, you want to take advantage of what these institutions are good at, right? Our institution thrives at international education, so you want to take advantage of those opportunities. But even if you go to another institution, they also have international programs. I would encourage you to look into them as well. So the international office, they approached the Division of Diversity in 2013 or 2012, and they said, hey, we need to get more students of color abroad. You all are grounded with the students, you know a lot, you have relationships, you know what they might want and need, and we have trouble recruiting them, so let's create a program together. So in 2013, we started a program to China. We took about 40 students. And then 2014, we went to Cape Town, South Africa. And then since then, we've gone China, South Africa, China, South Africa. Until 2018, we started another program in Costa Rica. And then in 2019, we ran Costa Rica, China, and South Africa all at the same time. And then last year, I developed another program to Dubai. However, we weren't able to run it due to COVID, right? So what's unique about the Division of Diversity's programs is that they're very diverse. Okay, so when I was an undergrad and I studied abroad, I was the only Black dude on the trip. And when you go internationally, you're forced to confront issues of culture, issues of race, issues of nationality. So sometimes if you are the only person of color on a trip, it could be a little intimidating and uncomfortable to have these conversations because everyone else is having a very different experience than what you're experiencing. So what we've been able to do with the Division of Diversity is we take students in numbers, mass numbers. In 2018, we took 80 students to Cape Town, South Africa. 80 students. 85% were Black and Latino. Okay, so it's a totally different experience. It's amazing for Black, white, Asian, it doesn't matter. That's something that we pride ourselves on, is really taking internationally a diverse group. So with that, Caesar was on one of our trips. Again, I forget the year, but he did go to South Africa, I'm pretty sure. And I'm gonna let him tell you a little bit about his story abroad with our program in South Africa, and then also a little bit more about some of his current projects that he's working on. So Caesar, go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Walker. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Dr. Walker, cut me off because I could keep talking forever. So cut me off when you need
5 to 6 minutes.
Yeah. So thank you very much. My name is Caesar. I went in 2016 on the study abroad program to South Africa. And that was the beginning of an incredible journey because every year after that, I went on another study abroad program. So 2017, I went to China. 2018, actually, it was also 2017. I went to Thailand for 6 months. And 2019, I went to Cuba. And the reason was because I met a professor, and his name is Dr. Moore, who Dr. Walker and everybody else on the call, I think, knows very well. And I had never had such a powerful speaker in my life talk to me about the things he was talking about. And I said, I need to follow this man. And when I went to South Africa, some of the things that I learned, I think Kevin put it really well. He was talking about how you kind of get outside your bubble when you leave the United States. And I interviewed Dr. Moore for my podcast a week ago, and I was telling him, I've seen too much, Dr. Moore. And he was like, yes, that's it, man. When you go abroad, you see too much. Like, it's like, oh, I'm in a bubble in the United States. And there are people who are from all sorts of industries, from all different countries, who aren't millionaires, but they're living the lives of millionaires. They're going around Thailand and Vietnam, and they spend a month in each country, and they're just having the time of their lives working remotely. And in South Africa, I had the opportunity to go on a trip on my own because nobody else wanted to bungee jump. And that's the picture you see on your screen. That is me taking my bungee jump. It's my literal leap of faith. And I think the biggest lesson I took from study abroad is that life is a bungee jump. You are faced with these constant choices. Jump or don't jump. Go to college away from home or stay home. You know, do something comfortable or uncomfortable. And for me, one of the biggest lessons I got from study abroad is a lot of the times the life that you want to live is on the other side of fear, of
Hmm.
of being uncomfortable. But that uncomfortableness is only uncomfortable because nobody else is doing it. And so when I went on this trip to go bungee jump and nobody else was with me, I was already away from home. I didn't know anybody. All the people on my trip were new. And now the people that I barely knew, I left them. And now I'm out here alone. And I discovered you meet friends everywhere. And so another point that I had here, another lesson I learned is that there's just thousands, if not millions, of friends, of lovers, of business partners just waiting for you to meet them. All you have to do is, like Kevin said, get outside your bubble. Because when you hang out with just the people that you've known your entire life, you're not going to meet new people. And study abroad is kind of like it pushes you to get outside your bubble. You're going to meet people. And that's been one of the greatest gifts. Like I said, I didn't stop studying abroad, and that's why I went to Cuba, Thailand, and I've met these incredible people. And now I'm building this platform where I'm going to interview Dr. Walker this Friday, and I interview other professors, and we talk about the importance of studying abroad, but we also talk about our stories, what we've learned when we've gone abroad. And I'm hoping to inspire more Latinos and Black kids to go and live and work abroad, because it's an incredible experience. It's changed my life.
Caesar, let me ask you this. So you brought up the fact that you're passionate about encouraging other students of color, specifically Latinos, to go abroad. As a Latino or Latinx identifying person, how would you say studying abroad impacted your cultural identity or your understanding of your race and culture?
Yeah, it's a very good question, because I grew up in El Paso, Texas, where almost everybody I went to school with was Latino, and I never really appreciated the Latino culture because it's just I was always around it, right? And you go to a country, for example, like Thailand, that has such a deep, rich culture, amazing food, incredible sports, Muay Thai, but it's a different flavor than your culture. And seeing that contrast really made me see, oh, I have something special back home. Because also of the people that would talk to me, would be like, oh wow, you speak Spanish, you're Mexican, like do you and they would just ask you whatever question popped up in their head, very innocent questions. Do you like tacos? Or why did you choose Trump? You're American. I was like, I didn't choose him. It was an entire country. But you realize that wherever you come from, it's something special. The only thing is that when you live um, in a certain place and you've never left home, it kind of it's kind of hard to see that. It's kind of like that old story about the fish in the water who can't see that they're in the water. They ask, where's the ocean? And then they're like, they can't see that they're in the ocean. And it's the thing where you go abroad and you see, oh, I've been in the water the whole time. Like, I've been in that special place. My culture is special. And you begin to see that there's a strength with where you grew up and who you are. And just going abroad made me much more marketable. If we're talking about career wise, I mean, it's just any interview I go to. I mean, my go-tos are I taught English in China. I built a website in South Africa. I studied business in Thailand. I danced and studied culture in Cuba. You know, these are the life experiences that kind of people in big companies like Google and any company that they look for, because it's just they want interesting people who are going to diversify their company, and they know that you are a person who's ambitious, and you say it says a lot when you study abroad. But yeah.
Caesar, thank you so much. So much. And my wife, my fiance at this point is Latino, and something she experienced both in South Africa as well as China, as well as the other Latino students. What was profound to some of them, at least on my most recent trip in 2019, when we took 42 students to Beijing, China, was that due to the rhetoric in this current country when President Trump was the president around Latinos and the deficit-oriented discourse often associated with criminality and like don't speak Spanish and this and that. And when they were abroad, it freed them of some of those stigmas and burdens. And what they experienced internationally is Chinese people coming up to them and saying, one of our students was supposed to teach English. And then they found out that they spoke Spanish. They were like, oh, you speak Spanish? Please teach our students Spanish, right? And an embracing of the culture and the language that many of our students oftentimes haven't felt in this country, right? And I know my fiance was experiencing that. And one of the just most beautiful moments in 2019, I'll tell you all a little bit about this. So in China, we go and we hike the Great Wall, right? Now, I've been to a lot of the 7 wonders of the world. This is incredible. It's the most amazing thing I've ever been to. We hike the Great Wall of China. We're walking around there for hours. We get exhausted. It's hot out there. We get back on our bus. We drive to this little village. We get to the village around maybe like 5, 6 o'clock. We have dinner. We're having a great time. And then we started playing games and we started playing music, and Selena came on. And a lot of the students started dancing, especially the ones that knew how to do like different salsa and bachata and all this good stuff. And we're watching and everyone's salsaing and spinning. And in the background, literally a half a mile away, is the Great Wall of China. And it's this interesting mix of culture, right? And it was so beautiful and so unique. And it almost felt like only a group of UT students could have this kind of experience. And it was just a beautiful moment. It felt very powerful for me to be a conduit to help these students, really embrace their culture on the other side of the world. And lastly, I'll tell you all what we ended up doing is we go to sleep, obviously around 12, midnight, wherever. We wake up at 3:30 in the morning, crack of dawn, right? This little Chinese man smoking cigarettes, he starts leading us up this mountain in the dark, right? We can't see nothing. Everybody's using their cell phones, trying to get a little bit of a light. We're snaking up the mountain. It's steep. You're just going, you're trusting, you're tired, you're exhausted. People are winded. The line starts like this, but it ends up like this because some people are falling way behind. As soon as the sun starts coming up is right when we peak to the top of the mountain, right? So you peak the mountain as the sun is rising, and now you're on top of the highest point of the Great Wall of China in that region as the sun is shining. And you just are sitting up there like, whoa. How did little old me from El Paso, how did little old me from Los Angeles, California, from Brownsville, from DeSoto, how did I get here? How many other people that share my cultural identity, how many other of my ancestors, right, have been able to have this experience? My great-grandparents couldn't travel freely in this country, right? And now I get the opportunity to travel to the other side of the wall and sit on the Great Wall of China, a monument that's been there way longer than America even thought of existing. Now, obviously, there was native people in these lands that were existing and thriving before the colonizers came, but that's a whole different story. That's a different lecture. So thank you, Caesar, for sharing that. I'm going to jump into now. So clearly, that's me on the Great Wall. 3 reasons why I believe it is so important to go abroad. I want to start off with something that Caesar said. It said professionally, right? Every time he's in an interview, he's talking about the experiences he had internationally. 90% of American college students do not study abroad. 90% of American college students do not study abroad. So if you have an opportunity to go abroad, you are part of a unique upper echelon, a unique few, the 10%. Now, those numbers for students of color are even smaller. So think about that. What's going to make you different, right? Why are you going to college anyways? Really think about that. What is the goals that you have when going to college? You want to have a set of experiences. You want to build your network. You want to gain confidence. You want to gain a level of expertise in an area. All those things you also gain by studying abroad. So first and foremost, the number one reason why I think it's important for students to go abroad is because you come back so much more confident in who you are, right? You are forced when you're abroad to figure it out. So last summer when we went to China, well, 2 summers ago at this point, it's the first day there, and I give the students an assignment. It's the amazing race, right? I put them in small groups of about 5, give them the assignment, and their objective is to go find about 5 or 6 different monuments in Beijing and take a selfie in front of them, a group selfie. And the first group to finish all 6 selfies, right? And I could tell by the timestamps, they get a prize. We're like, well, Dr. Walker, how do we get there? Figure it out. Well, Dr. Walker, is there a public transportation system? I'm like, oh yeah, Beijing has one of the best, subway systems in the world. I mean, it's crowded. There's a lot of people in Beijing. They're like, well, how do we buy tickets? Figure it out. Well, it's in Mandarin, Dr. Walker. Today's our first day. What do you expect us to do? Figure it out. And I literally just walk out the classroom. Y'all need to be finished by 6. And I go home. I go to my hotel. I'm looking back. They're confused. They're awestruck. They don't know what to do. But what do? They just start to go figure it out. Do they make mistakes along the way? Of course they do. But by the end of that day, all of them had hit 5 to 6 of the locations. And at this point, all of them knew how to buy subway passes in Beijing, not speaking Mandarin. They knew how to navigate the subway system, right? They knew how to bump and wiggle their way into these train systems. They figured out the culture. Do you bump into people? Do you not? Do you talk to people? Do you not? I don't know if any of y'all been in New York, but there's a whole culture to riding on subways, right? And they figured it out on day 1. They walked back into the classroom the next day, so giddy, so hyped, right? And so confident. Now let's take that back to the States. Imagine going abroad the summer after your first year. If you figure it out in China, you figure out how to navigate that space. As Caesar said, he took a personal trip when he was in South Africa by himself a few hours away to go bungee jump. I think I bungee jumped on that same thing when I was an undergrad student in 2007, right? It's supposed to be like the highest one in that region of the world, right? Exactly. So he went by himself, right? So many of my students, after coming back from their international experiences, they just start traveling by themselves. One of my students went to Chicago a few weeks ago. I'm like, oh, who you want to meet up with? He's like, I don't know nobody out there. I'm like, oh, who you traveling with? Oh, nobody. I just want to go to a festival. I'm like, you going by yourself? He's like, yeah. It's nothing. It becomes nothing. You have so much confidence in your ability to figure it out and so much confidence in just being yourself, right? If you can navigate Beijing, China, what's going to happen when you get back to the 40 acres, back to UT's campus? Think about the resources that you'll be able to take advantage of, right? At that point, are you going to be intimidated by a professor? Are you going to be intimidated about applying to a job when you get in that first round interview, you're going to be able to talk about being in places of the world that whoever's interviewing you has never dreamed of being, right? That's why Caesar said in those interviews, that's what he talks about. Because the best thing coming from an interview is you want that person to remember you. You want to stand out. And that's why these experiences are so important in those particular settings, because so few people have them, right? So next I want to talk about number 2 is global experiences create a global network, which creates global opportunities. Now, I'm sure you all have heard your net worth is your network. Basically, the idea of your value, ultimately, your value is who you know and who knows you. Well, what happens when you start creating a global network? Not just Texas, right? You know, it probably feels good once you start meeting people from other cities. Like, oh, I got a homie in Houston. I got a homie in Dallas or El Paso. You start feeling good about yourself. Like, man, I got a big network. Then you start meeting, oh, I got friends in LA, New York, Iowa, right? You feel even better. Like, you know, people from all around. All those people are informing you about their own unique realities in the world. So you're starting to have a broader understanding of how people live. What happens when you take that internationally? I literally have people and friends all over the world. When I travel to Europe, rarely ever am I going to just go travel somewhere and stay at a hotel. No, I'm going to think about who are the people that I know in the various countries in Europe and build a trip based off my relationships. So again, when you have a global network, then you'll have a global net worth. I still got bank accounts in Korea. Why not? Why not have a bank account in Korea, right? So one of our students who also went on the South Africa trip, so Caesar told you that he built a website for one of our partners in Cape Town. Basically our Cape Town trip, which is our flagship trip, we 3 days a week, we're in the classroom, and 2 days a week for the full day, students are in the communities working with one of our partners, right? They learn from them, they figure out how can I help you do what you do better? How can I help you solve one of your own problems? I'm not going to come and tell you how to fix your problem, but if you can tell me what you need, then I can figure out how to help you. They let Caesar know, or maybe Caesar realized that they didn't have an online presence. Caesar had those skill sets, so he helped them develop that. So that's what we kind of do in South Africa. One of our students 2 years ago, he's an architecture student, and we were working with this organization called Green Pop. And what they do is they like turn old abandoned buildings into like greenhouses. They turn empty parking lots into gardens, right? They kind of rethink urban spaces. And they were telling him they really needed this dome, this design. He's like, I can design that for you easily. He designs it for him. They love it. They actually replicate it and actually build the full thing out. He comes back to the States and he still got that travel bug. He got that itch. He doesn't want to stay in the States no more. So he starts applying for global internships. He gets selected for the third biggest architecture firm in the world. He gets selected for an internship there in Switzerland, a year-long internship. And he said, just as Caesar mentioned, in the interview, all they wanted to talk about was his experience in South Africa. Why? Well, one, he showed that he could take knowledge and theories that he's learning in the classroom and apply them to communities in need. One. Two, his experience proved that, hey, if I can live and if I can make it in Cape Town, South Africa, I'm a good person to invest in to come live in Switzerland because I've already proven that I know how to navigate international spaces, right? So they're that much more confident in investing in him as a potential employee because he's already proven that he knows how to travel globally. He's not going to get afraid or miss home and want to jump back, right? He's proven that he has those experiences. So he went out there for an entire year, had a great experience, experienced COVID-19, all of that out there, and he most recently came back. Literally right now, when he's thinking about applying for jobs, there is no limit. He's not looking in Austin or simply Austin. He's not simply looking in Texas or the Southwest or the South or this country or North America. He is literally looking globally. Globally. So imagine how many more opportunities he then has. Imagine how much more unique he is to any potential employer because he's already spent a year in Switzerland. He's already spent a month in Cape Town, South Africa. So again, when you have these experiences, you're going to build your network and then the opportunities are then going to there create themselves. Lastly, I'll say it really allows us to reimagine possibilities for ourselves and for our communities. When you go to other parts of the world, and I'll say this as a person of color, as a Black identifying man, oftentimes in this country, racism can seemingly blind me, right? Sometimes racism, we think about it so much, it's like this. Like you can't see nothing else, right? Instead of us putting it into its proper context. Yes, racism is real. It's here. As is sexism, right? As is anti-Asianness, right? We just seen this week, right? As is homophobia. All of these things, right? As anti-Islamophobia. All these issues are very real and very relevant, but we got to put them in their proper context. Because if that's all we think about, that's all we're going to see. And when you start traveling abroad, you start to see opportunities, right? When you go to a school in Cape Town, South Africa, and you're teaching the kids there, and you're trying to read them a different book every time you come, and you realize there's only 15 books for an entire school, and you come back to UT and you walk into a 5-story library, it's going to force you to say, what am I doing with these resources that are available to me? You're not going to be focused fully on racism at that point. You're thinking like, man, I got a lot of opportunities here. There's more that I could be doing with what's been granted to me already. And that's what's important for us to think about. How do we reimagine possibilities? When you go abroad and you see people thriving, making it, chilling, creative, ingenuity, innovation, of far less resources than we have here. When you come back, you're like, oh man, I gotta get it. I gotta get it, right? So we took another student who went to Cape Town with us in 2018. He, at this point, he just liked to film things. This is how he would even identify himself, right? He wanted to film. So he brought his camera, he documented the trip. He ended up producing an amazing video, right? And he won our video competition. I created a competition. I gave the winner like $750 and he won. A 3-4 minute video, good stuff. And then the next year, when we're going to China, he approaches me and says, hey, I know you liked the video that I made last year. I'm like, yeah, I did. It was really good. He's like, why don't you this year, you pay for me to come abroad to China with you and I'll make you a new one. And I'm like, man, think about these 3 things I listed here. Confidence, how much confidence he had in himself to approach me and say that. Hey, you should invest over $5,000 in me because I know my product is that quality. I've already shown you what I can do, right? He has these global experiences now. I know he can go abroad and produce a video because he's already done it. And now he's reimagining possibilities for himself, right? The year before he paid $6,000. Now he just got paid $5,000 to go. So he's rethinking what's possible. He came abroad with us and he made an amazing video. And if I have a few minutes left, I think I do, maybe it's only a 3-minute video. I'm gonna go ahead and show it to you all so you all can get an actual practical understanding of some of the things we do and maybe how students are experiencing these trips. Hopefully it works. Or I swear I practiced this beforehand. Nope. All right, so this is what I'm gonna do. You know what I can do really easily? I'm about to go here, YouTube. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. I'm gonna go to YouTube and I'm gonna pull up this video. So just bear with me for about 30 seconds. It'll be worth the wait, I promise y'all.
What do you see? Political strife,
All right, so now let me get back here. Share my screen, share sound. Boom. Can y'all see that? All right. So this is one of our students.
When you Google China, what do you see? Political strife, pollution, or even orange chicken recipes.
Of our favorite Chinese takeout food.
This popular narrative is not the China I came to know in the month that I was there. But I have a video that shows what was, is, and will forever always be a defining chapter in my life. All right, y'all, another year, another DDCE adventure. This time, China. A vast multitude of dialects, cultures, and landscapes that spans nearly 4 million square miles and built off roughly 5,000 years of history, making it impossible to describe with just one video. So I'll focus your attention to Beijing, where we spent most of our time.
Dude, where even am I? Holy sh!
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Justice Beverly. For 2 years now, I've been traveling with the Division of Diversity and Community Engagement, more commonly known as the DDCE, an organization here at the University of Texas whose goal is to provide students that oftentimes don't get opportunities due to financial setbacks or systemic inequalities an experience that will shape the foundation of their lives forever. I've been afforded an amazing trip, seeing cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Xi'an, Tianjin, Tokyo, and Seoul, while documenting a group of students on their adventures. Here's some of the things we did. The course. This consisted of 2 professors, a handful of staff, 40 students, and a videographer. The students studied social entrepreneurship under Devin Walker and guest speakers at Beijing Foreign Studies University.
Today I'm taking my son to class.
Isn't that right? Jeremiah taught history and led us on expeditions to places such as Tiananmen Square, the Summer Palace, and the Great Wall of China. Once a week, students set out to their respective service learning placements. This included various businesses, NGOs, and schools. Dividing into smaller specialized teams based on their majors and interests to not only provide a unique perspective to their employer, but also allow the students to have their minds open up to new ideas, sorting through issues, developing programs, and communicating with the group. This brings me to the language barrier. For some people, this might seem like a major obstacle, but this is a global fluency that the DDCE instills in us. This is where most of us were tested. Some of us knew a few words, and only a small handful were fluent.
What the hell?
What did you learn? What did you just say?
But this was an integral part of our experience. When we were told to meet somewhere, we weren't chaperoned or provided transportation. We had to get there on our own. No tour guides, no translators, just a subway card. Asking directions, doing laundry, and ordering food became an exercise that taught us how to adapt. These skills carried over into our downtime. Our downtime was, well, ours. We had complete autonomy in deciding what we wanted to do, both in our free afternoons and our free weekends. Some of us took a 6-hour bullet train to Xi'an to see the Terracotta Warriors, while others went to see the monumental Shanghai Tower. And some even set out to Zhangjiajie National Park, home to the floating mountains featured in the 2009 film Avatar. Other activities included bargaining at the Silk and Pearl markets.
I'm serious, this is all I'll have.
Making countless food reviews, everything from international Mickey D's to eating squid on a stick, and might have gone to the club once or twice or even 3 times. But yeah, of course there are differences between any 2 countries. However, there are many similarities that we choose to overlook. People are conditioned to focus on the differences, but once you peel away the layers of stigmatism and social influence, you realize we're not so different. We're a people with communities, laughter, and culture. And although we didn't speak the language, in fact, because we didn't speak the language, it wasn't so much about what people said. It's about how they said it and how it made us feel. These experiences could not be reflected in a Google search. You have to go there to understand. This is generosity, not animosity, acceptance, not resentment, a people, not a government, and most importantly, this was captured and not manufactured.
We made memories.
We ate.
We sang.
We laughed.
And we cried.
But the strongest takeaway from it all
was that it got me to realize
作为中国人是什么意思
what it means to be Black.
what it means to be American,
y darme cuenta del significado de ser latina.
What it means to be a global citizen and
What it means to be me.
and this is what defines who we are. Thank you, or in other words, 谢谢.
All right. He killed that one, didn't he? So with that, that's pretty much.
Welcome to South Africa. Welcome to Lavender Hill.
Y'all can check out his YouTube page. It's Justice Beverly. He has all sorts of videos from both our South Africa trip as well as our China trip. A lot more than what I just showed you all. So that's pretty much that. I will pass it back to Christina. If there's time for Q&A, happy to do that. But I know you have other pieces of the presentation you need to get to as well. So yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna move on to the admissions with Lupita. But if you guys have any questions, you can ask them in the group chat, and I'm sure Dr. Walker, Cesar, and Kevin are happy to answer them. And thank you, Dr. Walker, Kevin, Caesar. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And Lupita. Okay.
Hey, hi everyone. As they said, my name is Lupita. I'm an admissions counselor for UT, I'll be going over the next steps in order to, accept your admission. So first, accept your offer. You want to click that accept button, and then that will give you leeway or be able to do more than completing the rest of the steps in the admissions process. The next would be apply for housing. If you haven't done so already, you want to do that right away. Housing works on a first come, first serve. If you have, great. Then you'll be able to receive your contract if you already accepted your offer. Housing will be sending you those contract offers as soon as they come. They usually go about around the 1st and the 15th of the month. So as soon as you accept, you'll be waiting for that contract to show up on your My Status. After that, financial aid. Hopefully you already submitted your FAFSA. If not, you want to get to that as soon as possible. Financial aid is already starting to be released, so you'll most likely hear from us soon. And you go onto your cash base and accept your financial aid. You can revise it. If you want to set up an appointment with an admissions counselor, you can do so as well to go over what your awards are. Next would be registering for orientation. Orientation registration will open in April. You want to go onto the orientation website, look at the orientation dates and see what week your school will be at. So that way you'll be able to meet with one of your academic advisors. But in order to do that as well, you do need to accept your admissions. And then also lastly, check your My Status. They will provide any updates or any last minute details we may require from you. So like a final transcript, meeting those TSI bars or anything else that may come up on your to get to UT. And here is a little timeline. You have until May 1st to accept your admissions. Hopefully you accept before that, but the last date to accept is May 1st and satisfy your enrollment deposit with us. Here are some upcoming sessions that we will have. You can see the dates here, and every session will begin at 4:30. Hopefully you'll join us again. We really like to see you all and help participate with us. You want to screenshot, take a picture of that. I've attended these in the past and they're really helpful and informative. And I know my previous students have actually gone on to join some of these initiatives that we have on campus. And here we have the contact information for the UT Youth Engagement Centers. As you can see, we're all across the state. If you don't know how to contact them, then you can check out their emails or visit their websites. And also you can follow us admissions at our social medias here at Via Longhorn. And I think that's it.
Yeah, so I know there were a couple of questions about financing your trip abroad. I don't know if Dr. Walker, Kevin says I have a few minutes we have maybe about 10 more minutes left. If you can share a little bit about financing your trips abroad.
Yeah, I could give it a shot. All right. Scholarships are a big one. I did use financial aid. I took out some loans, but I will tell you that it's the best investment you'll probably make. And then after that, family and friends, jobs, of course. I know a lot of people started GoFundMe's. You know, your community is very powerful. So just the problem is that we just don't ask. So don't be afraid of asking the people that you know. And that's what I got.
Can I jump in on that as well? You know, I'm still paying back loans from my undergraduate travel experiences. I will be transparent about that. However, those experiences completely shaped the trajectory of my entire life. So it's worth it for me. Now I get paid to travel. I get paid to do what I love. So what I would encourage you all to do is finances are going to be a barrier for most things that we want to accomplish in life if we come from lower or working class communities like myself did. Neither one of my parents went to college, so I didn't have that backing. However, when you become a young adult, you start training yourself, right? Either you go after what you want and you figure it out how to get it done, or you don't, right? You're either going to figure out a way to get this paid for. If you decide like, I'm going abroad, and you make that decision as an affirmative, yes, this is going to happen, then you will apply for the scholarships. You will do the correct GoFundMes. You'll come meet with me. You'll know about every financial opportunity that I have available, and you will figure it out. And you will not spend all the much money as it actually costs. However, if you allow your fear, kind of like Caesar was talking about before to control you, your fear of not having enough money, then you likely won't apply. You'll be timid. You won't put the application in, and you won't take the necessary steps. So the first thing you got to do is commit, right? And put it into the cosmos, and then start getting that energy back. And there's numerous ways, there's so many ways to get things. Quick example, a lot of times, at least my experience in college, I worked for everything that I got because I grew up broke. So that's what I knew, right? I'll grind out, make $10 an hour. To make $1,000 off $10 an hour, that's 100 hours of work, not excluding taxes, right? 100 hours. Now, how about we think more strategically? Maybe we work 40 of those hours and get $400 so that we still have enough money to pay for our immediate needs. But then we use 60 of those hours, those leftover hours, to apply for scholarships, to write applications, to meet with professors, to create a GoFundMe account. You're going to get so much more money than $600 back, so much more money, right? But it's a different type of investment. It's a long-term thinking strategy rather than immediate gratification, right? So again, if you want to make it happen, you can make it happen.
That was really well put. If you want to make it happen, you have to go and make it happen yourself. Thank you, all three of you, for showing up and for sharing with us. I really liked how you put it. You know, you get to see the world, but at the same time, you get to really appreciate your appreciate your identity and your culture and, you know, your history. That was really, really just fantastic. I'm really jealous of y'all's travel. I need to up my game. Thank you guys, everyone who showed up. Thank
Christina,
you guys for coming. Yes.
I want to ask, could I just say, for everybody listening, if you've never had the pleasure of having Dr. Moore talk to you, or you want to hear Dr. Moore speak, I did interview him, and the podcast it's The Dose of Caesar. I encourage you to listen to it if nobody around supports you going abroad, because I know that was a problem with me. I'm creating this online community as a support base for Latinos and Black students, and Dr. Moore's going to be there. Dr. Walker's going to be on there. So I encourage you to listen. Dose of Caesar.
Can I say real quick, Mr. Walker, is it possible to have a quick chat with you after the session? I could contact you through Teams.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. We have a couple more sessions left. Our next session is on Thursday with Dr. Dieter, where he will be talking about the program College to Career, which is a really cool program that shares a lot of resources for undergraduate students, and then McNair Scholars, which focuses on undergraduate students trying to pursue PhD programs or doctoral programs. So that will be on Thursday at 4:30. I don't know if someone has a link so that they can register. Yes. So if you're interested in attending that session, you can register now. And thank you all for coming. Thank you all again. Thank you so much.
Great job, everybody. I really appreciate it. If we can, real quick, before you guys start signing off, can you just take your cameras off? Let's get a hook 'em and take a screenshot real quick so we can put on our social media. That would really be fantastic. So if everybody can just please show your messed up hairdos and all that great stuff, and let's get a hook. And we can certainly do that. Awesome. I love it. Awesome. All right. We're going to do a quick pick right here. Let's get everybody joining in. Fantastic presentation, guys. Really, really loved it. Here we go. I'm waiting here. I'm holding my breath. All right. Here we go. On three. Big smile. Hook 'em. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Excellent, guys. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Thank you, Lupita from admissions, others from the other centers. You'll probably receive a text from me reminding you about these sessions. So please sign up for Thursday's presentations. You don't want to miss out. Thank you very much, guys.
See you.
Thanks for having me.